How to build a good multicolor mana base. Yo, welcome and much love. Trav here, covering something really in depth, going through a system to help you build better mana, build better decks, get mana screwed less, get mana flooded less, get color screwed less, cast all your spells on time, right? Magic, the game, is a lot about managing variance, managing luck. That's a lot of what the game is. And it's managing that in consideration to power as well. But a lot of people don't see that, and they get mana screwed, they wish it upon themselves, they decide they're going to build bad mana bases, and so they have something to complain about. You don't want to be this, you don't want to be that person. You want to be the person that has 95% chance to have both of your colors at the start of the game, right? You want to be the person who just never has to complain because you're always winning, right? Welcome and much love, Trav here. It's a topic that is really deep. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to think about. It's not necessarily the most fun thing to think about, and it's why I've delayed so long in making a video, but I want to do something helpful today, so that's what we're going to do. Also, heads up, by the time that you're watching this, probably on the Big Island, and maybe by the time you're watching this, though, I'm headed back towards Phoenix to play in the GP and then headed towards the Pro Tour. Also, by the way, people are asking where this is from. This is from my ebook. It's, if you go to mtgtraining.com/deckmastery, I'll try to throw a link in the description. You can get it there. I wrote this in, end of 2015. I don't know the exact number, but it had a couple thousand people see it, and that's really cool. Got a lot of cool feedback. So if you don't have it yet, it's like $15, and if you don't want it, that's cool too. But anyways, so I'm not gonna read through every word. We're not gonna go over everything, and this is out of sequence too. This is chapter 14. The previous chapter talks about just how many lands to play, basically, and some of the factors that go into that. And we'll look at that as well, but I wanted to go into this today because I wanted to tackle something more difficult. So basically, you're trying to have the right amount of lands or mana where you are not very likely to have a shortage or surplus, but you're kind of in the middle, equally likely of either, because you don't want to be flooded every game, you don't want to be screwed every game, you're trying to find the sweet spot. The issue, though, is when you're playing a bunch of colors, there's not just mana screw, there's color screw, because you don't want to be short on blue, or you don't want to have a ton of blue mana and no blue spells, right? You don't want to be short on black, and it's hard when you're playing 4 or 5 colors, 3 colors, and you're trying to balance all this stuff. And what often happens in Limited, where you have this 7-6-5 mana base, or something, 7-6-4 mana bases, you're setting yourself up to have shortages all over the place, and surpluses in actual lands, which is why it's important to look at this and apply some numbers to this to look at what you can actually do. Okay. Basic factors going multicolor, right? So basically you're playing more colors, you're taking on more risk most of the time, but you're getting greater reward. So sometimes you have certain build that's just so weak that you have to take on more risk. So I'm not saying you should never splash, I'm not saying you should never play 3 colors, 4 colors. I'm just saying that ideally you have power and low risk, and that can sometimes happen. You also need to manage how much risk you really want. A lot of the time, you have good mana fixing. You can take on greater reward without taking on that much risk, right? Another thing to consider is your colored mana costs. The more colored mana costs you have in your deck, the more colored mana sources you need, obviously, right? If your deck is all Wormcoil engines, you don't really need colored mana sources. But if it's Phyrexian Obliterator, Colony Hydra, etc., you need to have the majority of your lands need to tap for these colors, right? Progenitus is hard to cast. So what you're going to do is you're going to play more multicolor lands. However, multicolor lands have a drawback, generally. They often, speed pain, money, they come into play tapped, they cost you life, they cost you dollars, but they're going to let you cast your spells, right? Like City of Brass, Llanowar Wastes. Generally multicolored lands have some sort of inconsistency drawback. Basic land always comes into play on tap, never costs you life, right? And it's also cheap. Okay, another thing to consider is, when do you need colored mana? If you need it early in the game, you need more sources, right? If you need it late in the game, you need less sources. This is a mistake I see people make, like people splashing 2-drop creatures. You shouldn't splash that because you need a lot of sources to cast it early, because you're going to unlock it later in the game and you want to win the game when you can cast it. On the other hand, if you're just splashing 1 fireball, it can be stuck in your hand all game. You'd finally draw your 1 mountain late and you win the game on the spot, right? So that's something to consider, and also how you want to build your mana base. Color sorting, okay. Let's talk about colors. Let's talk about the system. I'll give you guys a system for and some math for how to actually make a good mana base, right? So basically, my system. For you, first you determine the optimal land ratio, just like how many lands you want. 24, however many. Then you're going to color sort your deck and look at, do I have more black cards than green cards? To basically see where you're at, where your balance of costs is at. So you're going to isolate the first color and start adding lands or removing lands, because we're going to repeat this process. Then you move on to the next color and you start adding or removing lands, and then you repeat until all colors are completed, and then that's basically it. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here. So here's this black-green singleton deck. Okay, these are the cards we want to play. And oftentimes, also, you'll start off with the mana base, not this creature, the spells, actually. There's limitations of what you can or can't do. But that's another thought. So, optimal land ratio. I'll choose to go for 23 lands with this, because there's all these rampers. Okay, so we say, first, 23 lands. Okay, now we're going to color sort, see that that's basically even. We've got 1 more green card than black card, but we want both early. We want equal sources if possible. Right, we've got 21 green sources and 20 black sources. All right, so what we do is isolate the first color. And all right, here's all the green cards. Let's throw in some forests, 14 forests. So 14 forests gives you an 86% chance of starting with the green from a 7-card opener, and that's plenty. In limited, 14 is equal to 14 and 60 cards is like 9, between 8 and 9 in limited. So that's another reason why I like to play 18 lands sometimes, because I want to have an 86 chance, and 86 chance isn't of both either. You have to multiply them to have the odds of both, and 86 times, you're like 60, 70% chance to have both colors in your opening hand. Like a third of the time you don't, right? So really more is better. The more fixing is better. I don't want to go above 20% chance of mulliganing, because we need green to start, right? So that's the absolute minimum. Move on to black, okay, and see how many lands are even left. We've got these 4 fixers, plus we can throw in these basics, and we got up to an 84% chance of black. Counting the green fixers. So at this point, we've got 21 green sources, 21 green costs, 14 green sources, 20 black costs, 13 black sources. But I'm gonna go back and remove lands and add dual lands, because I want to be 95% chance, right? So let's pivot back and forth between green and black. Take all these green cards and green lands, and then cut a bunch of them for dual lands. These all still make green, but now a bunch of them make black too. Because my preference portfolio, you have to think about this, like where your tolerance is at, right? A low risk tolerance. I want to cast all my spells all the time, right? I want 95% chance of starting with green. I only want to miss 1 in 20 games. Okay, and also at this point you can add in stuff like Treetop Village. Okay, repeating for black. Counting these 4, we cut a bunch of swamps for black sources, so we get up to 19. There's a 94% chance, and this is way better compared to 70%. So we have 95%, 94%. What is it? 19 out of 20. You multiply them. I didn't include the numbers in this, but it's something like 90% chance to start with both. So you're not going to mulligan very much because of color screw. You take control of your mana, and play a lot, more Magic. That's 2-color deck. Quickly run through with the 4-color deck. Living End. I currently play Jund Living End. Off and on, I play white for Pale Recluse and Captured Sunlight and white sideboard cards. So, this is complex, but basically how many lands do we need with all this cycling? We talked about it in the last chapter, all the cycling and so on. The color sorting, it's like, okay, we've got 8 necessary black sources, 8 red sources, 4 green sources. That's it. You need... there's some overlap because, like, you look at Monsters Caribou as black or red. So up to 22 black costs, up to 21 red costs, depending on how you look at it. Right. A lot of them are unessential. Red only has 8 cards that actually need red mana. That's Outburst and Demonic Dread. So first we start off with red because it's necessary. We get the Spirit Guides. Pale Recluse gets Stomping Ground. Verdant Catacombs gets Blood Crypt. Throw in all of these. And we can start off with 20. How is that 20? How does this add up to 20? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It says 11 above it. That's not right. So 20 red sources, start off with a 95% chance. And that is also a 99% chance of at least 1 red mana in 10 cards. Although ideally with Verdant Catacombs you don't get red mana. But those odds are so good that you're just not going to get mana screwed. Really like that. So move from red to black. Black is next most important because you have to cast Demonic Dread and you need black for Fulminator Mage and some of this other stuff. Although it is possible to get by with green instead. So 16 black sources, 90% chance, which is pretty good. Yeah, and then you just keep pivoting back and forth. Green, go to green. 18 sources, 88% chance. And repeat until satisfied. So here's one issue though, is like you're looking at chance of source per 7 cards, 95%, 90%, 88%, 75%. Looks really good. Chance per 11 cards, 99, 98, 97, 91. One issue though is that you're multiplying these together to see if you have all of them. Right? And correct me if that math is wrong, but also how did I use the math? The math is in here, hypogeometric. We'll go to the math in a minute, but basically, if you have more sources or more costs, then it can cause you some problems because you need to have them early, right? Although in this case, you only really need red, and then either black or green. So it's like, yeah, I mean, this deck has great mana because we play so many duels and because we use this good system, and yeah. So I'll take a look at the math here. It's been a while since I've done this, but I found it's easier to look at this graphically. Notes. Chance of drawing red and green simultaneously is a chance of drawing red or green. Subtract. Yeah, I don't even want to do this math right now. But this is basically an explanation of the math. Yeah. Whatever. Anyways, hope you find that useful. The main takeaway again is like, just don't get mana screwed. Like if you want to be in the 90% certainty, right? When you lose, you want it to be because your opponent had a great draw and played great, not because you fucked up building your mana base and kept a shitty hand, right? You can take control of that a lot. You can take more control of it in Constructed than Limited, really. Limited, all you can really do is stick to 2 colors. Most of the time, there really isn't that much fixing, at least not nearly to the extent of Constructed. You're always going to get mana screwed some percentage of the time, especially in Limited. So, but you can see that there's a lot of things you can do to really increase your percentage. So, I hope you find that useful. If you want more lessons like this one, then write me. Let me know in the comments and I'll do more. If you want to get the full ebook, again, Deckmastery or mtgtraining.com/deckmastery. We'll throw it a link in the description. So hope you find that helpful, useful, etc., etc. Much love and speak soon. And if you have also more nuanced and specific questions, then I will make a follow-up video. So I'm happy to do that. Appreciate you, and speak soon. So look forward to seeing everything in the comments. Peace.